Our study from heartofashepherd.com continues today with our daily devotional. Our scripture reading is Proverbs chapter 10, and our title, Hatred Reveals What Love Forgives. Proverbs chapter 10. Now, our devotional today will consider two principles from Proverbs 10. The first is going to be found in verse 12, and then the second principle will be taken from verses 31 and 32. Let's pick up the first one. Hatred exploits what love conceals. Proverbs 10 and verse 12, and we read, Hatred stirreth up strifes, but love covereth all sins. Now let's stop and consider that verse for a moment. Hatred stirreth up, literally awakens strifes. Now the idea of strife is, of course, discord and a contentiousness. So hatred, where there is strife and contention, there will be hatred. But by contrast, love. Now the love here is genuine, sincere love. Love covereth all sins. Literally conceals or passes over sins. Have you ever wondered why the world has so much strife and discord? Well, Solomon diagnosed the root cause of a pervasive, contentious spirit, and he states in verse 12, the first part, hatred stirreth up strifes. Where there is strife and contention, inevitably you're going to find a hatred, a hateful spirit. Now, to state the same conclusion in a different way, hatred, not love, disrupts, denigrates, damages, devastates all whose life it touches. Hatred provokes strife in marriages and families and friendships, in churches, in institutions. Where there is hatred, there will be strife. Now, in his letter to Timothy, Paul identified pride as the root cause of envy and strife. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 4. The Apostle John also wrote in his epistle concerning a man who was a cause of grief and a source of discord in the early church. He writes of this man, Diotrephes, the name of the man, who loveth to have the preeminence among them, receiveth us not. Now the word preeminence there is the word for ambition. He's striving to be first. So imagine, we know really nothing about this Diotrephes beyond what's written here, but he was so bold, so proud, that he dared to refuse to even receive the Apostle John, the disciple of Jesus Christ. Now, though some will dress up strife in a garb of religious piety, the presence of unresolved conflict is indicative of an unforgiving spirit. Anywhere you have, let's say, a church, for example, and there's a unresolved conflict that just continues there, it is because of an unforgiving spirit. Now, such a spirit, if unchecked, will become antagonistic and destroy friendships, families, and fellowships. But then let's look at the second half of Proverbs 10 and verse 12. And here we read, love covereth all sins. Now, before you jump to a conclusion, let's remember that biblical love does not overlook sin, because that would contradict the ways of the Lord and the Scriptures. Yet believers are commanded to lovingly and meekly address sin in each other's life. Now, what does it mean then when we read, love covereth all sins? It is this. It is that sincere, genuine love is forgiving. Now, such love will not unnecessarily expose the sins, failures, and the shortcomings of one who is loved. Indeed, biblical, Christ-like love is long-suffering, it's kind, it's gracious, and forgiving. 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 6. And so a closing thought on this first principle. In his letter to believers living in the first century, the Apostle Peter wrote, "And above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves." Now, fervent charity is a self-sacrificing love. Above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves. For charity, that self-sacrificing love, shall cover the multitude of sins. That is, love is willing to overlook your failures and your shortcomings. You and I should not be surprised that hatred stirs up strife. However, we should be concerned that some who profess to love others readily entertain and expose their faults and their failures. You see, true love is love that forgives. So while hatred reveals what love conceals, hatred also exploits what love forgives. And then our second principle for today's devotion is found in chapter 10 of Proverbs, verses 31 and 32. Now, I'm going to title this particular principle in this manner: be careful. Your lips will expose your heart. Now, many have commented that you cannot see what is in another person's heart. Well, we would agree, you cannot see their heart. And while that observation is correct, it is also true that a person's heart is exposed in their words, their attitudes, and their actions. And so consider Proverbs 10 and 31. And here we read, the mouth, literally one's speech or the things that you say, the mouth of the just bringeth forth wisdom. And so the just being a righteous man, a law-abiding man. And so when a righteous man speaks, you hear in his words wisdom. By contrast, the froward. Now, froward is a perverse man, a swearing tongue, a malicious tongue. The froward tongue, the speech, shall be cut out, literally shall be punished. Now, the tongue is a frequent subject of Solomon's Proverbs, and the scriptures abound with examples of its use and its misuse. For example, James wrote in his epistle, "The tongue is a little member and boasts of great things. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil full of deadly poison." You can stick out your tongue and you think, well, it doesn't look that bad. But oh my, the damage and the heartache that one's tongue can do when our words are flowing from our hearts that are evil. You see, controlling one's tongue is challenging. However, that small member in your mouth is not the root of our troubles. The problem is the heart. So the words and the conversations of the righteous evidence grace and godly wisdom and discernment. Now, by contrast, the tongue of the wicked is perverse and is known for lies and speaking evil of others. And so Jesus taught his disciples, those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, and blasphemies. Matthew 15, 18 through 19. And so let's consider verse 32 of Proverbs 10 as we close. Now, the lips, again, the language, the speech of the righteous know what is acceptable. And so a righteous man's words reveal he has wisdom and insight. Oh, but the mouth of the wicked, it is full of frowardness. That is, it is perverse. You see, your words matter, and they are a window into your soul. You can discern a man's character if you listen to his conversation. A good, just man will encourage the soul with words that edify and are pleasing. while a righteous man understands the power of a well-spoken word. However, the wicked are proud, their words cut, and their conversations are perverse. A closing thought for you today. Now think about it. What do your words and conversations reveal about your character? Now be careful how you answer that question. Your words and conversations reveal your inner man. Now, understanding the power of the spoken word, we do well to embrace Paul's challenge to believers in the church at Colossae when he wrote, "Let your speech, that is your conversation, be ever with grace, seasoned with salt," salt being a purifying, preserving agent. And finally, that you may know how ye ought to answer every man. What a wonderful counsel we have as we close. Watch your tongue. It'll do more than get you in trouble. It will reveal what's in your heart. May God find our lips revealing what's in our heart, and that is grace and kindness and forgiveness. God bless you. Thank you for being a part of today's daily devotional, and bye-bye.